Hi guys, I'm going to go over the predictions for the Shanghai Major Compendium. If you just want the quick and dirty, you just want the predictions, just put them in your battle pass and get out of here so you can play more Dota. I will post a link with an album with all 4 of these pages and all 40 of the predictions so that you don't have to listen to the video. But if you want to hear more about the Shanghai Major and hear my thoughts about each of these so you can maybe incorporate some of your own knowledge into your picks, then you can stay for the rest of the video. So overview of the Shanghai Major group stages start around February 25th, and that will go on for a few days. The main event is March 2nd through 6th in Shanghai. The brackets have actually been released already, as well as the groups. There are 4 groups of 4, 16 teams total, and each of the groups will play GSL style format, and the 2 winners will go to the winners bracket and the 2 losers will go to the losers bracket. Very similar to what happened in the Frankfurt Major. And the playoffs are very similar to TI and the Frankfurt Major as well, with one big difference. Most of the time it's like 4 upper bracket matches, pretty easy path to the grand finals because you've already won so much in the group stage, and then the lower bracket is pretty turned up with BO1s at the start, and then BO3s happening later. And during the Frankfurt Major there were BO1s in round 1 only, and BO3s all the way until the grand finals, which is BO5. But for the Shanghai Major, the lower bracket round 2 is actually only a best of 1. And if I recall correctly, all the lower bracket round 2 matches were 2-0s at Frankfurt. So it's probably the best place to cut down on a few matches without, ruining the tournament. So I think it's a pretty good place. So lower bracket round 2, just 1 match, and then lower bracket round 2, bam, 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 just BO1s all the way. So this will hopefully ease up the schedule a decent amount and make it more enjoyable for the viewers. So now that you know the format of the tournament and hopefully the 16 teams that are playing, that are all listed right here, then you can move on to your Battle Pass Compendium predictions and get some free battle points. So first one I'm going to do is the Turnout Prediction, because I just talked about the format. The total number of games played I expect to be around my exact number is 93, so I'm going to put 93 to 97 as my range. For a best of 3 at Frankfurt, the expected number of games that a best of 3 was going to last, it was about just a little under 2.5. That's the expected number of games that a BO3 is expected to last. So this number kind of falls in line with this number, and yeah, it should be 93 to 97 or 88 to 92. It should be one of these two. Total number of heroes picked for Frankfurt, it was 83. This patch is slightly more versatile, and after looking up stats on how teams pick, it seems like around 87 is my number. So 81 to 90 is a very safe pick here. Total number of heroes banned at Frankfurt was 66. Recently, it seems like 75 to 76 is probably a more reasonable number for this current patch, so that falls dead in the center of the 71 to 80 range. Most combined total kills in one game could be anywhere from 70 through 100. Can't really go wrong with any of these 3. There's almost certainly going to be a game with 70 though, so definitely don't pick anything lower. So I think there'll be the occasional super long game with lots of kills, especially with VP in the mix. So 91 to 100 will be my choice. Longest game of the tournament, there's almost always a game that lasts at least an hour. You should pick 60 plus minutes. 70 to 80 or 80 to 90 would be my bet, just because these types of tournaments, like when teams don't want to GG out, they take it pretty darn late. Shortest game of the tournament, 15 to 20, is a pretty safe bet. There's an occasional game that's 14 minutes, but this is probably one of the safer predictions on the page. Most kills by a hero in a single game, typically over the span of a 70 to 100 game tournament, it's about 17 to 22 is the most common. So I'll just put 70 to 19. Most deaths by a hero in a game is typically around 17, so 15 to 20. I'll go a little bit conservative and say 15 to 17. Most assists by a hero in a game. This one somewhat depends on hero picks. If there's a lot of Zeus and a lot of Spectre, it should be a little bit higher. I think there'll be a fair amount of Spec and Zeus, and the range is usually 24 to 31. I pick the higher end because of this reason. Highest GPM by hero in a game, 800 is usually hit in the span of at least a 50 plus game tournament, and 900 is very rare. Usually when there's an alchemist or there's just a super mega farmed anti-mage is usually when that happens, but 800 to 899 is a pretty safe bet. So heroes, most picked hero, Vengeful Spirit was my pick. My notable mentions would be Gyro, Invoker, and Witch Doctor. However, I picked Vengeful Spirit because the stats point towards that, as well as her being very flexible in a draft. She can be core, one position. She can be like dual offlane, or she can be support. And she also counters, she's a good counter versus a lot of heroes. So I think with that flexibility, she should be the most picked hero. Most banned hero, I think, will be Earth Spirit. Notable mentions are Void, Chen, Lone Druid, and Wisp. I think Earth Spirit will be the most banned, though. And hero with the highest win rate as well should be Earth Spirit. He had a sick win rates at the last few tournaments. And you want a hero that's like picked sometimes, but not too often, and you don't want like crappy teams diluting his win rate. So I think Earth Spirit kind of is in that sweet spot where he won't pick that much, but by the teams that will use him, it's going to be strong enough that that he's going to have a high win rate. I think his win rate was like 80 something percent at the last tournament. Heroes with the highest kill average. This one, you want a hero that's going to be picked around like 5 to 8 times. So again, his kill average does not get diluted. I think that there will be the occasional Wisp Tiny game where the Tiny gets out of control. Notable mentions are Ursa, Clinks, Spec, and Lena. Lena, I think, is in a support role a little bit too often. Ursa and Clinks, I'm not sure if they're gonna be picked 5 games, so I just went with Tiny. Hero with the highest assist average, minimum 5 games played. I think Spec will be safely above 5 games. Zeus and Earth Spirit are notable mentions for super high assists. Heroes with the lowest death average, I put Terrorblade here. You can put like Morphling or Faceless Void if you so desire. I think Terrorblade will safely be picked at least 5 games because LGD likes to run him a lot, and I think that Sylar doesn't really die that often on the hero, and you can end games early, which is less opportunity for dying. So Terrorblade for that one. Heroes with the highest last hits, highest GPM average, and most last hits in a game, I just put Anti-Mage. I would put Anti-Mage, Ember, Morphling as... I'm pretty sure I'm missing one. But Anti-Mage, Morphling, and Terrorblade seem to be the ones that have the highest of all 3 of these. But I think that Anti-Mage is a big overlap in a lot of the teams. Like Burning plays him, Arteezy plays him, Miracle plays him. Like, pretty much all the teams play Anti-Mage as a carry, whereas not all of them run like Morphling or Terrorblade. So I think that it'll probably be like CT1 Anti-Mage that has this record. Heroes with most kills in a game. This one, it could be like an Ember in a super long game. It could be an Exort Invoker who just kills seals all day with Sunstrike. It could be a super farm with Tiny, but I'm going to go with OD just because I think the hero is ridiculous and he's going to just like 5-man wipe a team with Sanity's Eclipse one of these games. Teams, winner of the Shanghai Major, I put eHome. Honorable mentions, Evil Geniuses, and Alliance. Team with most kills in a game. I put Virtus Pro and teams with the highest kill average. They're just like a very explosive team that likes to get a lot of kills and not farm that often. By the way, this one is 2,500 points, so probably think twice before you put what I put. And who do you actually think is going to win? I think eHome. People have different opinions. Team with the fewest deaths in a game. EG sometimes just have people's numbers and just will steamroll someone. And I think that they're going to play a lot of games in this tournament. So I'll put down Evil Geniuses. Similar with most assists. Sometimes they actually have like super long games and they're pretty tactical and take it late. And sometimes they have like pretty long standoffs. So go with the Evil Geniuses. Teams that wins the longest game. I think that Team Secret has like the longest match time by a few minutes over some of the other teams, which is not that surprising, but when you like actually look at the stats, it's like, wow, Secret have really long games. And they also like to pick Spectre a lot more than other teams, so I think they'll be in this category. Teams that wins the shortest game, eHome. They are notorious for pushing down your towers early. Sometimes they have the occasional Pugna pick, which is just not in other teams' arsenal. And I can foresee them winning in like 16, 17 minutes, far more often than other teams. Teams with the highest game length average, I already mentioned Secret. Teams that picks the most different heroes. This should be a team that you think is going to go very, very deep in the tournament. I think that Ehome's going to win, so they will probably pick the most different heroes. And likewise, teams that picks the least different heroes is a team that you think will get eliminated very early on. This one should be one of the wild card teams, MVP Phoenix, Archon, Spirit, etc. And I think that Archon has a really tough group, so I think that they will be one of the first eliminated, or at least the highest probability in my eyes. Player predictions, player with the highest kill average, I put maybe. Players with most kills in a game, Sumail. Players with lowest death average, CTY, but you can pick any super safe carry. Players with the highest assist average, I put Kaka. He was very high in the statistics that I looked at, surprisingly. I wouldn't have picked him unless I had looked at the stats. Players with the most assists in a game, Fear seems to get this a fair amount. Players with the highest last hit average, Eternal Envy, RTZ, these sort of players, Sylar. Players with the most last hits in a game, Sylar. Players with the most GP in a game, I think CTY on an anti-mage. Players with the highest GPM average, Ehome will probably win a lot, so I'll put CTY. You want to put a player on a winning team here, and player that picks the most different heroes. I put Arteezy here because there's very few teams that actually do role swaps, and I think the Arteezy plays mid far more often than other carries. So I think that will bump his hero pull up by at least 1 or 2 over the other players. So that concludes that. Hopefully you'll get a few thousand, maybe even 10,000 battle points from these predictions. But of course, use your own knowledge, and if you've been following competitive Dota and you think you know something special or cool, you've been following much more intently than most people, then by all means make sure you incorporate your own knowledge into this. And by the way, it's just more fun if you do it that way. But if you don't have time, just copy mine and hopefully you'll get a few thousand. Okay, well, that will be going on in just a few days, guys. Should be very, very exciting. Everyone's pumped for majors. It's going to be great. Okay, I'll see you there. Bye bye.